The battlefield was eerily silent, save for the faint hum of alien machinery and the distant crackle of energy weapons. Lieutenant Aaron Drake crouched behind a jagged piece of wreckage, his breath shallow but steady. His team had been ambushed by an unknown force on this desolate moon, a barren wasteland bathed in hues of crimson and violet under two suns that refused to set. The air smelled metallic, like blood mixed with ozone, and every step he took felt heavier than the last. Aaron's mind raced as he tried to piece together what had happened. They'd been sent here to investigate strange signals emanating from the planet's surface, signals that hinted at something extraordinary. But instead of answers, they found themselves surrounded by towering war machines piloted by creatures unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. These beings moved with an elegance that defied their size, each motion calculated yet fluid, as if they were dancers choreographed for destruction. As the dust settled around him, Aaron caught sight of her, or rather, it. She emerged from the chaos like a specter, gliding across the battlefield with an otherworldly grace that made his heart skip a beat. Her form was humanoid, but there was no mistaking her alien nature. Her skin shimmered like liquid silver under the twin suns, catching light in ways that seemed almost magical. Her eyes glowed faintly, pools of molten gold that pierced through everything they touched. And when she turned slightly toward where he hid, her gaze sweeping over the carnage, Aaron couldn't help himself. "She is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," he whispered hoarsely, unaware that his voice carried just enough to be heard above the eerie quiet. It wasn't just her appearance, it was the way she carried herself, exuding power and poise without arrogance or malice. There was something regal about her, something untouchable yet utterly compelling. Her head snapped toward him so quickly that it startled him into silence. For a moment, time froze. Those golden eyes locked onto his, unblinking and intense. He felt exposed, as though she could see straight into his soul, reading every thought, every fear, every longing buried deep within him. Then, slowly, deliberately, she began walking toward him. Aaron swallowed hard, his pulse pounding in his ears. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to dive back behind cover and disappear into the shadows. But his legs wouldn't obey. She approached him with measured steps, her long, flowing robes trailing behind her like smoke caught in slow motion. Each movement radiated authority, commanding attention not through aggression but through sheer presence. It was impossible to look away. When she finally stopped mere feet away, towering over him despite being only slightly taller, Aaron realized how absurd his situation truly was. Here he stood, a soldier armed with nothing more than a battered rifle and a dwindling supply of courage, facing off against what could only be described as royalty. Not human royalty, something far greater, far older. "What did you say?" Her voice hit him like a shockwave, resonating deep in his chest. It wasn't harsh or cold. Instead, it carried a melodic quality, rich and layered, as if multiple voices spoke in perfect harmony. Yet beneath its beauty lay steel, an edge that demanded respect, even obedience. Aaron stammered, his throat dry. He glanced down at his boots, suddenly hyper-aware of how dirty and scuffed they were compared to her pristine elegance. "I said, you're beautiful." A flicker of surprise crossed her features, or at least, that's what Aaron interpreted. Her expression shifted subtly, the glow in her eyes dimming ever so slightly before returning to full intensity. She tilted her head, studying him as one might examine an insect trapped in amber. "You understand me," she said after a pause, her tone curious now. "How?" It was Aaron's turn to tilt his head, confused. "What do you mean?" "Of course I understand you. You're speaking my language." She shook her head, sending waves of iridescent light rippling across her hair, which, upon closer inspection, appeared to be made entirely of strands of crystalline material. "No. We are not speaking your language. This is ours. And yet—" She reached out then, her hand hovering inches from his face. Aaron flinched reflexively, expecting some kind of attack or probe, but her touch never came. Instead, she simply hovered there, her palm glowing softly as if channeling energy directly from the stars above. "You carry something within you," she murmured, her voice softer now, almost tender. "Something ancient. Something familiar." Before Aaron could respond, before he could even begin to process what she meant, the ground beneath them trembled violently. Both of them stumbled, though while Aaron nearly fell flat on his backside, the queen remained perfectly balanced, as though rooted to the earth itself. A deafening roar split the air, followed by the unmistakable sound of charging plasma cannons. "Your people grow impatient," she said dryly, turning her head toward the horizon. Sure enough, reinforcements were arriving, human dropships descending from the sky like avenging angels. Their arrival was accompanied by a fresh wave of enemy drones swarming up from the depths of the cratered landscape. Aaron groaned inwardly. Great. Just when things couldn't get any worse. But the queen didn't seem concerned. If anything, she looked amused, her lips curling into what might have been the alien equivalent of a smirk. "Tell me, little soldier," she said, turning back to him. "Do you wish to live?" It wasn't exactly the question he'd expected. Yeah, I guess." Her smirk widened infinitesimally. "Good. Because dying today would be inconvenient." Without another word, she raised her hand high above her head. Instantly, the battlefield erupted into chaos, not from explosions or gunfire, but from a cascade of shimmering lights that descended like rain. Each droplet solidified mid-air, forming translucent shields that blocked incoming attacks and redirected them harmlessly into the void. The humans and aliens alike paused, momentarily stunned by the display of raw power. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the spectacle ended. The queen lowered her arm, her expression unreadable once more. "Follow me," she commanded, her voice brooking no argument. "Or stay here and perish. The choice is yours." Aaron hesitated for all of half a second before scrambling after her, his survival instincts overriding whatever shred of pride he might have had left. As they moved, weaving between crumbling ruins and dodging stray blasts, Aaron couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just stepped into something far bigger than himself. Something cosmic. Inside the alien command center, the atmosphere was both awe-inspiring and unnerving. The walls pulsed gently, as if alive, casting shifting patterns of light and shadow across the room. Strange symbols floated in the air, hovering like holograms but lacking any visible source of projection. Everywhere Aaron looked, there were signs of advanced technology blended seamlessly with organic design. It was as though the entire structure had grown rather than been built. The queen strode confidently ahead, her movements drawing the attention of everyone present. Other aliens, presumably her subordinates, bowed low as she passed, their forms varying wildly in shape and size. Some resembled bipedal lizards, others insectoid creatures with too many limbs to count. Despite their differences, they all shared one common trait: reverence for the queen. Aaron, meanwhile, stuck out like a sore thumb. His bulky armor and scarred face marked him as an outsider, and more than a few pairs of alien eyes lingered on him with open curiosity, or perhaps suspicion. He resisted the urge to fidget, keeping his gaze fixed firmly on the queen's back as she led him deeper into the heart of the facility. Finally, they arrived at what appeared to be some sort of throne room. Unlike the rest of the base, this chamber was dominated by a single massive structure, a tree-like entity whose branches stretched upward to merge with the ceiling. Its bark glistened with bioluminescent veins, pulsing rhythmically in sync with the gentle hum filling the space. Beneath its sprawling canopy sat a circular platform, upon which the queen now stood. "Kneel," she ordered, gesturing sharply with one hand. Aaron blinked. "Excuse me." Her golden eyes narrowed dangerously. "You heard me. Kneel." For a moment, defiance bubbled up inside him. Who was she to order him around? He was a soldier of Earth, damn it, not some lackey to bow and scrape at her whim. But then logic kicked in. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and completely out of his depth. Besides, hadn't she just saved his life? With a muttered curse, Aaron dropped to one knee, wincing as his armor clanked loudly against the floor. The queen nodded approvingly, though whether it was genuine approval or mere satisfaction at seeing him comply, he couldn't tell. "Rise," she said after a beat. When Aaron obeyed, she continued, "You are brave, for a mortal. Foolish, but brave. Few would dare speak such words to me, and fewer still would survive the attempt." He opened his mouth to reply, but she cut him off with a dismissive wave. "Enough. Let us address why you are here. Your species has trespassed where it does not belong, meddling with forces beyond comprehension. Explain yourselves. Aaron blinked again, caught off guard by the accusation. Wait, hold on. We didn't come here looking for trouble. We were investigating those signals. Signals we did not send, she interrupted, her tone icy. Signals meant to lure invaders into our domain. Tell me, soldier, does your kind always rush blindly into danger without understanding the consequences? Okay, fair point, Aaron admitted silently. Still, he wasn't about to let her pin all the blame on humanity. Look, lady, we didn't know this place belonged to anyone. Hell, we didn't even know you existed until today. Maybe next time, try putting up a sign or something. To his astonishment, the corner of her mouth twitched, as close to a smile as she probably ever got. Clever, but insufficient. Ignorance is no excuse for recklessness. Before Aaron could retort, the ground quaked violently once more. This time, however, it wasn't caused by reinforcements or artillery fire. The tree entity shuddered, its glowing veins darkening ominously. A low, guttural growl echoed through the chamber, growing louder with each passing second. The Queen's expression hardened. It seems our conversation must wait. The nexus awakens. The what now? Aaron asked, but she ignored him, already striding toward the tree. With a resigned sigh, he hurried after her, bracing himself for whatever insanity awaited them next. Outside the command center, the battle raged on with renewed ferocity. Human soldiers clashed with alien warriors, neither side willing to yield an inch. Explosions lit up the horizon, casting grotesque shadows across the barren terrain. In the midst of the chaos, Captain Lila Hartley barked orders into her comm unit, her voice cutting through the din like a knife. Drake, where the hell are you? She shouted, frustration evident in her tone. We need extraction coordinates, stat. Static greeted her query, followed by a burst of garbled noise. Lila cursed under her breath, slamming her fist against the side of her helmet. Typical. Just when they needed him most, Aaron had vanished without a trace. Captain! A voice called out, snapping her attention back to the battlefield. Private Jenkins jogged up beside her, his face streaked with dirt and sweat. Sir, we've spotted movement near the central spire. Could be Drake. Lila squinted in the direction he pointed, spotting a lone figure emerging from the smoke. Relief washed over her, until she realized it wasn't Aaron. Instead, it was one of the aliens, dragging something, or someone, behind it. Hold position, she ordered, raising her rifle cautiously. Let's see what we're dealing with first. As the alien drew closer, Lila's grip tightened on her weapon. Whoever, or whatever, it was carrying didn't look good. Bloodied and unconscious, the figure was clad in tattered armor that bore the insignia of the United Earth Expeditionary Force. Recognition dawned on her like a punch to the gut. That's Lieutenant Harris, she breathed, lowering her aim slightly. What the hell happened to him? The alien stopped just short of their perimeter, dropping Harris unceremoniously onto the ground. Then, much to everyone's shock, it raised its hands in surrender, speaking in broken but intelligible English. No fight, it rasped, its voice gravelly and strained. Queen say stop. Talk peace. Lila exchanged incredulous glances with Jenkins. Peace? From these creatures? After everything they'd done? Still, orders were orders. Lowering her rifle further, she activated her comm link. Command, this is Hartley. Requesting immediate evac for wounded personnel. Also, we may have a potential diplomatic situation developing. Over. Silence greeted her transmission, punctuated only by the distant rumble of collapsing structures. Somewhere in the distance, lightning arced across the sky, illuminating the jagged peaks of the alien cityscape. Whatever was coming next, Lila knew one thing for certain. Humanity was about to find itself facing challenges unlike any it had ever known. Back inside the command center, Aaron watched in stunned silence as tendrils of black smoke began oozing from the cracks in the tree entity's bark. The air grew thick and acrid, making it difficult to breathe. Whatever the nexus was, it clearly wasn't happy. We don't have much time, the Queen said urgently, her usual composure slipping slightly. If the nexus fully awakens, it will consume everything, including your people and mine. Great, Aaron muttered, gripping his rifle tightly. Any bright ideas on how to stop it? Her gaze flicked to him, sharp and calculating. There is one way. But it requires trust and sacrifice. Oh boy, Aaron thought grimly. This just keeps getting better. High above the battlefield, aboard the human flagship Eclipse, Admiral Victor Chen stared grimly at the unfolding events below. Reports poured in from every direction, painting a picture of escalating disaster. Casualties mounted, resources dwindled, and morale plummeted. And now, apparently, there was talk of negotiating with the enemy. This can't be happening, he muttered, rubbing his temples wearily. Not now. Not when we're so close. Close to what, exactly, remained unclear. The mission parameters had been vague from the start: explore, gather intel, avoid provocation. Yet somehow, they'd ended up neck-deep in interstellar warfare. Typical bureaucratic nonsense. Admiral, a young ensign piped up nervously, holding out a datapad. We're receiving an encrypted message from, well, it claims to be from the alien queen herself. Chen snatched the device, scanning the contents rapidly. His frown deepened with each line. Impossible. How could she possibly know our encryption protocols? The ensign shrugged helplessly. Sir, it gets worse. She's demanding a ceasefire, and requesting a personal audience with you. For a long moment, Chen said nothing, his mind racing through possibilities and implications. Finally, he sighed heavily, setting the datapad aside. Very well. Patch her through. Let's see what Her Majesty wants. As the screen flickered to life, revealing the Queen's striking visage, Chen leaned forward in his chair, forcing himself to maintain an air of calm professionalism. To what do I owe the pleasure? He asked dryly, folding his arms across his chest. Her golden eyes gleamed with amusement, or perhaps mockery. Admiral Chen, I presume you are aware of the stakes at hand. He nodded curtly. Cut to the chase. What do you want? She smiled thinly. Cooperation. Or annihilation. The choice is yours. And with that, the transmission ended, leaving Chen staring at a blank screen. Slowly, he leaned back in his seat, exhaling a long, shaky breath. Well, he said aloud to no one in particular, this day just officially became a clusterfuck. Admiral Chen's words hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy and foreboding. The bridge of the Eclipse was eerily silent as his officers exchanged uneasy glances. No one dared speak, not when their leader looked as though he might explode at any moment. Sir, ventured Lieutenant Commander Patel, her voice cautious but firm, what are your orders? Chen didn't answer immediately. His mind raced through scenarios, each more dire than the last. If they ignored the Queen's ultimatum, it could mean total annihilation for both sides. But if they agreed to cooperate, what then? What price would she demand? And how much trust could humanity place in an alien ruler whose motives were still shrouded in mystery? Finally, he exhaled sharply. Send a message back. Tell her we'll meet, but on our terms. Neutral ground, no tricks. He paused, narrowing his eyes. And find me Drake. Alive or dead, I want him accounted for. Meanwhile, Aaron stood frozen beside the Queen, staring at the writhing mass of black smoke that now swirled around the base of the tree entity. It pulsed with a malevolent energy, sending waves of heat rippling outward. The once gentle hum of the chamber had transformed into a deafening roar, making conversation nearly impossible without shouting. What is this nexus? Aaron yelled over the din, his grip tightening on his rifle. And why does it seem so pissed off? The Queen glanced at him, her expression unreadable. It is a relic, a remnant of a time long forgotten. When activated, it connects dimensions, realities, even timelines. But such power comes at a cost. It feeds on life, consuming everything in its path until there is nothing left. Aaron blinked. Wait, you're telling me this thing can destroy entire worlds? She nodded grimly. Was. Entire universes. Oh, fantastic, Aaron muttered under his breath. So how do we stop it? Her gaze shifted back to the nexus, her jaw tightening. There is a failsafe, an artifact buried deep within its core. But retrieving it will require someone willing to sacrifice themselves. Aaron felt his stomach drop. You mean, suicide mission? Precisely. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of her words settled over them like a suffocating blanket. Outside, the sounds of battle continued unabated, oblivious to the existential threat looming just beneath their feet. I'll do it, Aaron said suddenly, surprising even himself. The Queen turned to him, her golden eyes blazing with intensity. You would willingly give your life for beings you barely know? Aaron shrugged, trying to play it cool despite the knot of fear twisting in his gut. Hey, better me than everyone else, right? Besides, he hesitated, glancing away briefly before meeting her gaze again. If half the stuff you've shown me today is real, then maybe saving the universe is worth dying for. To his surprise, the corner of her mouth quirked upward, a fleeting, almost imperceptible smile. Brave words, mortal. But bravery alone will not be enough. You will need guidance and protection. Before Aaron could ask what she meant, the Queen raised her hand, summoning a shimmering portal in midair. On the other side, he could see glimpses of a vast library filled with floating orbs of light, each containing knowledge beyond comprehension. This is the archive, she explained. Within it lies the wisdom of countless civilizations, including my own. Use it wisely, soldier. For once you step through, there is no turning back. Aaron swallowed hard, his resolve wavering for the first time. What about you? Aren't you coming with me? Her expression softened, though only slightly. My place is here, holding the nexus at bay while you retrieve the artifact. Time is short, Aaron Drake. Do not waste it. With that, she gestured toward the portal. Reluctantly, Aaron stepped forward, feeling the strange pull of the archive drawing him closer. As he crossed the threshold, the world dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors and sensations, leaving behind the chaos of the battlefield, and the haunting beauty of the Queen who had changed everything. Inside the archive, Aaron found himself surrounded by an overwhelming sense of calm. The oppressive heat and roaring noise of the Nexus were gone, replaced by a serene stillness that seemed almost sacred. Floating orbs drifted lazily around him, each emitting a soft glow that illuminated the vast expanse of the chamber. One orb descended toward him, hovering just above eye level. Within its translucent surface, images began to form. Scenes of ancient battles, celestial phenomena, and intricate diagrams of machinery unlike anything he'd ever seen. Instinctively, Aaron reached out, touching the orb with trembling fingers. Instantly, a flood of information surged into his mind. He staggered backward, clutching his head as memories that weren't his own overwhelmed his senses. He saw the creation of the Nexus, witnessed the rise and fall of empires, and understood the delicate balance of forces that kept the multiverse intact. When the torrent subsided, Aaron collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. The orb hovered patiently, waiting for him to recover. So this is what it feels like to be smart, he muttered dryly, wiping sweat from his brow. Despite the gravity of the situation, he couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. As he rose to his feet, another orb approached, this one pulsating with a faint blue light. Within it, he saw the artifact, the failsafe. It resembled a crystalline shard, jagged and glowing with an inner fire. Surrounding it were layers of intricate defenses designed to deter intruders. Great, Aaron sighed. Piece of cake. He focused his newfound knowledge, channeling it into a plan. Each orb contained fragments of wisdom, tools, and strategies that could aid him in navigating the Nexus's labyrinthine core. With careful precision, he began selecting orbs, absorbing their contents one by one. Time lost all meaning as he worked, his movements becoming increasingly fluid and confident. The archive responded to his determination, guiding him toward the artifacts he needed most. By the time he emerged from the chamber, he carried not only the shard's location but also a mental blueprint of the Nexus itself. But as he prepared to return to the Queen, a nagging doubt lingered in the back of his mind. What if he failed? What if the nexus proved too powerful, even with all the knowledge he'd gained? And what of the Queen herself? Had she truly entrusted him with this task? Or was there more to her offer than met the eye? Back aboard the Eclipse, Admiral Chen paced anxiously, awaiting word from the alien Queen. The ceasefire held, for now, but tensions remained high. Every second felt like an eternity, stretching thin the fragile thread of diplomacy. Finally, the comm screen flickered to life once more. The Queen appeared, her regal bearing unchanged despite the turmoil raging around her. "Admiral," she began without preamble, "your Lieutenant Drake has accepted the burden of stopping the Nexus. Whether he succeeds or fails remains to be seen." Chen frowned deeply. "Accepted the burden? What exactly did you ask him to do?" Her golden eyes bore into his, unflinching. "That which must be done. Sacrifice is often required for survival, Admiral. Surely you understand this." He clenched his fists, anger simmering beneath his controlled exterior. "You sent one of my men to his death without consulting me." "I gave him a choice," she countered calmly. "A choice few mortals would have made. Trust in his courage, and perhaps learn something from it." Before Chen could respond, the transmission cut off abruptly, leaving him seething. Beside him, Patel cleared her throat nervously. "Sir, should we prepare for the worst?" Chen hesitated, his gaze fixed on the blank screen. Finally, he nodded grimly. "Yes. Prepare the fleet. If Drake fails, we may need to take drastic measures." As the crew scrambled to follow his orders, Chen allowed himself a rare moment of introspection. Somewhere down there, amidst the chaos and uncertainty, Aaron Drake was fighting for the survival of two species, and possibly the entire multiverse. Whether the young lieutenant succeeded or perished, his actions would echo throughout history. And somewhere deep inside, Chen hoped against hope that bravery really was enough to save them all. Aaron Drake emerged from the Nexus, his body battered and bruised but alive. In his hand, he clutched the crystalline shard, the failsafe that had silenced the malevolent entity once and for all. The oppressive roar of the Nexus was gone, replaced by an eerie stillness. Around him, the alien command center began to stabilize, its pulsating walls calming as if exhaling a collective sigh of relief. The Queen stood where he'd left her, her shimmering form glowing faintly under the dim light of the dying Nexus. Her golden eyes widened in disbelief as she took in the sight of him, alive, victorious, and holding the artifact aloft like some mythic hero. "You succeeded," she whispered, her voice trembling with something Aaron couldn't quite place. Was it awe, gratitude, or perhaps something deeper? He managed a weak grin despite his exhaustion. "Yeah, well, don't sound so surprised. I told you I'd get the job done." Her lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile, one that transformed her regal demeanor into something softer, more human, or at least, as close to human as an alien queen could get. She stepped forward, closing the distance between them until they were mere inches apart. "You have done what no other could," she said, her melodic voice filled with reverence. "You risked everything, not just for your people, but for mine as well. For all life." Aaron shrugged awkwardly, suddenly aware of how dirty and disheveled he must look compared to her radiant presence. "Hey, somebody had to save the universe, right? Figured it might as well be me." Her smile widened, and for the first time, Aaron saw genuine warmth in her expression. Then, without warning, she reached out, placing a delicate hand on his cheek. The touch sent a jolt through him, not of fear or discomfort, but of connection, a spark that transcended species, worlds, and lifetimes. "Thank you," she murmured, her gaze locking onto his. "For everything." Weeks passed, and the galaxy slowly began to heal. The ceasefire held firm, blossoming into tentative peace talks between humanity and the alien coalition led by the Queen, whose name Aaron finally learned, Ilera. It turned out that names held great significance among her people, often reserved only for those deemed worthy. By sharing hers with him, Ilera had granted him a rare honor, one that left Aaron both humbled and slightly terrified. As part of the diplomatic efforts, Aaron found himself shuttling back and forth between Earth's representatives and the Alien Council, acting as a liaison of sorts. His newfound knowledge from the archive made him uniquely qualified to bridge the gap between their vastly different cultures. But while his role kept him busy, it wasn't diplomacy that occupied most of his thoughts, it was Ilera. They spent countless hours together, discussing everything from philosophy to their shared love of stargazing. Aaron discovered that beneath her regal exterior, Ilera possessed a sharp wit and a surprisingly playful sense of humor. She teased him mercilessly about his clumsy attempts to pronounce alien words, while he countered by teaching her crude jokes from Earth. Their bond deepened with each passing day, evolving into something neither of them had anticipated. One evening, as they sat side by side atop a floating observation platform overlooking the alien cityscape, Aaron decided it was time to take a leap of faith. He turned to face her, his heart pounding wildly in his chest. "Ilera," he began, his voice uncharacteristically steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside him. "There's something I need to say." She tilted her head curiously, her golden eyes glimmering in the twilight. "Speak freely, Aaron. You know I value honesty above all else." Taking a deep breath, Aaron plunged ahead. "I never thought I'd meet someone like you. Hell, I didn't even think aliens existed until a few months ago. But now I can't imagine my life without you. You've shown me things I never dreamed possible, and you've taught me that courage isn't just about fighting. It's about trust, compassion, and hope." Ilera's expression softened, though a flicker of confusion lingered in her gaze. "Where are you going with this, mortal?" Aaron chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "Right. Okay, here goes nothing." Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a small, makeshift ring he'd crafted using materials scavenged during his downtime. It wasn't much, just a simple band of polished metal, but it carried all the weight of his feelings. "Ilera," he said earnestly, meeting her eyes, "will you marry me?" For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Aaron's stomach churned with dread, convinced he'd overstepped some cosmic boundary. But then, slowly, Ilera's lips curved into a radiant smile. "Yes," she replied, her voice filled with quiet certainty. "Yes, Aaron Drake, I will." Their union became a symbol of unity between their two species, celebrated across planets and star systems. The wedding itself was a spectacle unlike any other, blending human traditions with alien rituals in a dazzling display of cultural harmony. Aaron wore his dress uniform, polished to perfection, while Ilera adorned herself in flowing robes that shimmered like liquid starlight. Together, they exchanged vows under twin suns, surrounded by friends, allies, and even former enemies who had come to respect the unlikely couple. In the years that followed, their bond only grew stronger. To everyone's astonishment, including their own, they welcomed not one but two children into the world, hybrid beings who inherited traits from both parents. Their eldest, a boy named Kale, possessed Ilera's luminous eyes and Aaron's mischievous grin, while their daughter Lyra had her mother's ethereal beauty and her father's stubborn determination. As a family, they traveled the stars, working tirelessly to foster peace and understanding wherever they went. Aaron and Ilera became living legends, their story inspiring countless others to reach across divides and embrace the unknown. Through their efforts, humanity and the alien coalition forged a lasting alliance, ushering in an era of unprecedented cooperation and prosperity. But beyond the accolades and achievements, what truly mattered to Aaron was the life he'd built with Ilera. They faced challenges, of course. No relationship was without its struggles, but through it all, they stood together, united by love and purpose. One night, as they gazed up at the endless expanse of stars from their private quarters aboard the flagship Eclipse, Aaron wrapped an arm around Ilera's shoulders, pulling her close. "You know," he said softly, "when I first saw you on that battlefield, I thought you were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Turns out, I wasn't wrong." Ilera laughed, leaning into his embrace. "And here I thought you were simply trying to flatter me." "Nah," Aaron replied with a grin. "Just stating facts, Your Majesty." Her laughter echoed through the room, mingling with the soft hum of the ship's engines. In that moment, surrounded by the vastness of space and the warmth of their love, Aaron knew he'd found redemption, not just for himself, but for all those who dared to believe in a better future. And somewhere, amidst the infinite possibilities of the multiverse, the nexus lay dormant, its power contained forevermore.